My name is Alice, and I was fortunate enough to attend the Microcampus program. The Microcampus program consists of spending 28 days in a small village in southwest China called Xizhou. The other 8 students and I are known as the Limitless Group, the 12th group from Shanghai American School to attend. During this month, I spent time connecting with villagers and getting out of the bubble. I heard that Xizhou was a small, quiet village, a much different place than Shanghai. This sparked my interest in tourism and development, so it became my inquiry project. I learned that Xizhou has greatly developed within recent years and was interested in predicting the future of Xizhou. During my many conversations with people about the impact of tourism on the future of Xizhou, I learned about local people's perceptions, tourists and visitors' perceptions, and ultimately, my own perceptions about the future of Xizhou. First, we must consider local people's perceptions. Local villagers all have many different views on Xizhou's future development. Many of the villagers believe Xizhou will continue to grow dramatically as a tourist trap. Miss Yang and her father, Mr. Yang, both held strong views on this opinion. Miss Yang is a local villager and part of the Bai minority. She will often spend months traveling around the Dali region, selling small objects, and only returns to her home a few times each year. She has witnessed much change within the past 5 years, with something new in the village every time she returns. For example, new buildings have sprung up, and Sifangjie has changed greatly with new gates and shops. Miss Yang and her family believe within a few years the real Xizhou will be lost. Some villagers, however, believe that tourists will not affect Xizhou's development, and Xizhou will not be able to develop greatly in the future. Miss Zhang's perspective is a great example. Miss Zhang runs a little cheese factory that many tourists visit. Though she is affected by many tourists and sells souvenirs in her courtyard, she believes that Xizhou cannot develop anymore because it is far too small, and the tourism level will reach a maximum point very soon. I found it interesting that Miss Zhang is unfazed by the destruction and construction happening. It was exceptionally interesting to see that her very old house, which is 90 years old, is right next to a construction site where they are building a taller, newer building. Now we must consider tourists' perspectives. Tourists have a much different perspective from the locals. Mr. Xu, a tourist I met at Sifangjie, believes Xizhou is already an extreme tourist trap. Mr. Xu is a young tourist visiting the Dali region and happened upon Xizhou after visiting Dali Old Town. He believes Xizhou is already similar to Dali Old Town. The only difference is Xizhou is smaller. Another man I met at Sifangjie, called Mr. Mo, believes Xizhou is still a quite calm village, but will continue to develop because China is still a developing country. Mr. Mo is a tourist visiting from Beijing, where he works at Peking University as an editor. He has traveled to countless places in China and thinks Xizhou will one day develop into a commercially advertised tourist attraction. One thing about Xizhou that he noticed is he still sees local people going about their business, as if tourists have no impact on them. This was different than the other places he has been to, such as Dali Old Town, for example, where the people there are all affected by tourists and everything they do has something to do on the tourism company. And so, Mr. Mo believes that one day Xizhou will become a place like Dali Old Town. Mr. Mo understands that China is developing, and Xizhou will continue to develop with it. He believes more tourists will visit Xizhou, except there's not much to do except eat and admire old buildings. However, with developments occurring all around China, Xizhou will continue to grow. Taking into consideration both views from locals and tourists, I, myself, decided Xizhou will have small developments, but it will not become a place like Dali Old Town. I believe this is because Xizhou is far too small and cannot expand into neighboring villages. I have learned from my research that Dali Old Town could develop because it was large with plenty of space to expand around. Also, Dali Old Town is the must-visit area in the region, and Xizhou is just a small tourist site to visit during people's stays. With such a large tourist village so close to Xizhou, Xizhou will simply remain the small tourist attraction. Because Xizhou does not have many tourist sites to visit, about a few hundred more tourists will continue to visit every year, but only to admire the architecture and eat the famous foods here. Xizhou will continue to develop steadily in the coming years, but will soon reach the maximum point. So what I learned in my research is, with previous change will come more change in many different forms. I learned that it is unclear how Xizhou will develop in the future, but we can be sure that tourists will continue to visit Xizhou. There is no way Xizhou can back out of the tourism industry because it is far along the process of development. During my journey in Xizhou, I learned to communicate with my peers, teachers, and villagers. I became more aware of my surroundings and now understand how quickly changing of a world we are living in. Finally, I would like to say thank you to the Linden Center for hosting us and giving us a safe place to study and stay during our month. I would like to thank Mr. T, Miss Mai, and Cecily for taking care of us and having to deal with 9 middle schoolers for an entire month. And finally, I would like to say thank you to the village of Xizhou for allowing us to learn, escape the bubble, and create unforgettable memories.